Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And people have awared me that the Boogs, Eric Bugenhagen, has made a video about his meme Romanian deadlifts, wanting to avoid rack pull 2.0 happening. And I'm glad he did that. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skill at my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Now I was confused at first because I had saw the stuff he had done with Alec, not strong enough. And they were calling it Romanian deadlifts, and I see now he's calling them meme RDLs because that's not really a Romanian deadlift like what he was doing. That's why he's calling it a meme RDL. And I'll flip in an example here. I mean, and that's really strong, but that really isn't an RDL. It's a pin bounce. Like you're just bouncing it off the pins at the bottom. So you're using just inertia bouncing off the pins to lift more weight instead of getting the stretch reflex, right? You're not getting that stretch reflex with the hamstring that you want to get from the RDL. But then I saw that he actually has started doing legitimate Romanian deadlifts with a slightly lighter weight, but still ridiculously strong. I mean, it's stupid strong. And here's an example of what I'm talking about. Yeah, I mean, that's legit. Not only is that a legitimate Romanian deadlift, that is some serious ass weight for an RDL. So, you know, props, my man. That's strong shit. Respect. So you've got that. And then what you have happening here, I really wish, though, that he'd go into discussing why the Romanian deadlift. And then we'll talk about the pins in a minute. I wish he would, because it is a good exercise. It's an exercise I advocate myself off and on. It's an exercise I use sometimes as an accessory movement. It's a good lift, right? And it can add a pretty good amount of muscle to your hamstrings. It can add a pretty good amount of muscle to your glutes, things like that. I mean, valid exercise. And it's good sometimes when you can't handle the normal deadlift anymore. Either you're having an issue where your lower back can't take it, you're having recovery issues, things like that, because sometimes we just can't recover from the normal deadlift. And it can be used sometimes to help bring up lagging hamstrings when we can't get enough deadlift volume in anymore to recover from, because it's just an easier exercise in terms of axial loading and everything else. It's a good lift. And what it is, though, unlike a deadlift is called a deadlift because we pull it from the floor, right? We pull it from a dead stop. But it's a concentric-based exercise. And it's a big, heavy lift from a dead stop. The Romanian deadlift isn't actually a deadlift, right? It's not a deadlift. It's still a hip hinge. The deadlift is a hip hinge from the floor. The Romanian deadlift is a hip hinge from the top down to where you stretch down. You get a stretch reflex in your hamstring. When you feel your hamstring stretch, you snap back up. And you use the hamstring and the stretch reflex in the hamstring to initiate the movement, right? And it's a good exercise. It's a great hamstring builder. It's a great hamstring builder. All around good exercise. Great core exercise, abs, spinal erectors, all this. It's a good exercise. And hell, even used in certain ways, it can be a grip builder, right? It can be help with your grip, depending on how you do it, whether you strap up or how you're gripping it. Like I said, it's a good exercise. It's an exercise I like. I think it's a valid accessory movement, particularly for phases to where you can't do your conventional deadlift. I think it's great. So I do like that he is kind of promoting that now, doing it correctly, and I like that he's differentiated between the meme one, where it's basically a pin bounce, versus that. But I think what needs to be talked about here too is his concerns of it becoming the rack pull 2.0. You guys know I'm not a fan of rack pulls, and I'm not saying I'm not a fan of the rack pull below the knee. I think that's a valid exercise in the right situations. But I still see some guys, I'm not going to name names, I see some guys out there, some of you, and you know who you are, you're calling your below the knee rack pull still a below the knee rack pull when you're like an inch below the knee. That's not, no guys. It needs to be lower than that, and it needs to be a lighter weight than you can deadlift. In other words, if you're a 600-pound deadlifter, you're probably not going to pull 550 with a legit below the knee. It's an easier exercise to recover from. That's why it's done, but it still works most of the muscles the same, but it forces you to use a lighter weight. The reason I'm not a fan, though, is because people are doing them in a rack. And I don't think you should be bouncing pins and hitting pins with steel bars. I think it's bad for your joints. I know it's bad for your joints. And it destroys gym equipment, right? It makes you a dick. And for most of you guys out there, you're not getting a benefit. Most of you guys out there don't need it. This is why in Olympic gyms, weightlifting gyms, a lot of powerlifting gyms, why they have blocks. They do block pulls to replicate this, right? You pull off of blocks. That's the whole point. You shouldn't be pulling from a rack at all. You need to be pulling from blocks. I personally think rack pulls should be banned completely. Like if I owned a gym, and hell, I might start one day. With some of that YouTube money, build a gym. I would throw someone out for doing a rack pull. If I caught someone hitting my steel bars off of pins in my gym, their ass would be out. And I'd send them the bill for the damages. I'd probably take them to small claims court and sue them for that shit. It just makes you an asshole. And at least he buys his own stuff, and that's the difference. And that's a point he made in the past. He is doing this with his own equipment. If you do this stuff in a commercial gym with other people's equipment, or even worse, someone's hardcore gym, like they built that gym with love, one of these black iron gyms, and you're destroying their bars and rack doing that silly shit, you're a dick. You need to be thrown out. You really do. But the problem is that, they had all this above the knee meme, and that's kind of the thing that I've laughed at. Above the knee rack pulls or block pulls really have no place in training other than as a grip training tool. In other words, you're pulling 300 pounds more than your deadlift for grip strength, right? Because you're pulling it, 6 or 8 inches just to build a stronger grip with a weight you can't normally pull from the floor. It's a grip exercise. It has no value outside of that. No value at all. Doesn't even build the traps as well as a normal deadlift. Plenty of experts will tell you that. And his concern, of course, and it was a valid concern, is that this is going to start the rack pull 2.0 thing. And he's telling people, make sure this is below the knee, and I agree. And he even got upset, I think, that, and you could tell that he hinted at it, that, and he doesn't want to start drama, but he's not happy that Strap-On Destiny took it and had everyone doing it. And he's kind of addressed that very politely and tactfully, because, Eric has more or less said he doesn't want drama in the community. He's trying not to create drama, not to create fights. But the underlying theme there is that he wasn't happy about that. And I agree, because it's a bad thing that got promoted. And then it went from everyone from Strap-On Destiny promoting it to Scott Herman Fitness promoting it. And that's not good. That's bad for the community. It's bad for gyms. It's going to give people less gains. They're going to gain less muscle. They're going to gain less strength. More equipment is going to be damaged as a result of it getting popularized. And he wasn't happy with that. And he knows that a lot of that did kind of start with him, inadvertently, with him just having fun doing his show-off lifts. And then it carried over to Strap-On, and then Scott Herman, and now all these jackasses are doing it. It's destroying gyms, going to get people hurt, and it's not helping anybody. And he's admitted that. It's not a particularly effective exercise. It's a show-off thing. And he admits that. So he wants to avoid the whole rack pull 2.0 with this and pointing out this is below the knee, below the knee. Here's what I would say, Boogs. Stop using the pins completely, right? Take the safeties out. Then this will go away entirely and it won't be an issue because you don't need them. Like, look at what you're doing. You're doing an RDL. You could actually do that just in the rack off the J-hooks, walk it out, lower it down, lift it up. You don't need the pins because on the ones that I saw, you only accidentally tapped the safety on one side with the bar. If you're hitting the safety, you've messed up your rep anyways, right? It's messed up the stretch reflex you're trying to get. It's going to create imbalances. It could actually hurt you to only tap one side. So you're risking injury by having the safeties there at all. You don't need them. If the bar goes too low and you don't want to pull it back up, you can just turn loose of it and it'll hit the floor. And it's better than it hitting your safeties, which is going to bend them. At least if it hits the floor, you're better off. And the only thing I can think of is maybe he's concerned about damaging his floor. Throw more rubber down, man. It'll be fine. Be fine, brother. But I would say pull the safeties out. And I know you're still in that mentality of just having the safeties there because they're just below your range of motion. But if you pull them out, because they're not necessary to prevent injury for you, just if you took them out, this whole talk about the rack pull would completely go away with it. Now you're doing Romanian deadlifts correctly anyways, you're not tapping the pins. Problem solved. And I know maybe he hasn't thought of that because he was doing the pin tap and he's still just leaving the safeties in and adjusting his technique. And maybe he hadn't thought, oh shit, I should just pull them out. They're not helping me here. Because we do that. We as lifters do those things. We get into a habit and a pattern and we put things there and then we stop and go, wait, I don't need these safeties. Like I started doing that with my front squats and then realized, well, I don't need safeties for front squats. I can just bail. You know, why am I even bothering to set them up? I can leave them off my rack. And it makes it easier for my setup on my next exercise. But you know, we don't always think of that when we're used to using them for our squats and bench and everything else. So just a pro tip there, Eric. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.